Hello and welcome. Airbnb, Uber and Apple take other people's assets and make them productive, and before someone else does it to you, industrial companies need to get their act together, and that's really what we're talking about with William Ruh, Chief Digital Officer of GE. Thank you so much for joining us. So tell us, I mean, we don't think of industrial internet, and that seems sometimes a very amorphous and distant term. Why is it important and how can it change my life?
Look, I think if you go back to the late 90s, I don't think anybody thought about the consumer internet either. And yet, for the last decade, the whole world has been really transformed by the consumer internet. And I think that the way the consumer world, music, video, everything has been transformed. We're now at a point where the technology is going to transform the industrial world. And we're going to see a complete renaissance or a new industrial revolution that's going to allow us to generate electricity cheaper, cleaner, and deliver it better than before. Healthcare, we're going to deliver healthcare in places that never had it before. Transportation, we're going to make a ton more efficient than ever before. We're at a renaissance in the industrial world. So the next decade is the industrial internet. The last decade was the consumer internet. Right. It's going to be a lot more fun in the industrial internet.
Right, and these are things that only companies like yours or who are already in some sort of industrial automation or manufacturing will do. It's not something that I can control or decide, is it?
You know what, I think that's partially true. I think there'll be big and small companies. So take the drone market. I think the drone market is going to be more important to the industrial world than, say, the consumer world. Because just think of inspections. Can I send drones to inspect down a pipeline and power lines? Yeah. So you could imagine there's going to be a balance of really cool new companies, and then the industrial firms will change and they'll be consumers of all that technology.
Right. No, what about, aircraft? I mean, so all of us fly airlines regularly.
Yeah.
We want to know if they're coming on time. I mean, you are connected to aircraft and their engines and what's happening. Can I be better informed of when my flights are going to land and when are they going to take off?
You know what the 3 coolest words to an industrial person is? Zero unscheduled downtime. And now that doesn't seem very exciting to the consumer. But let me tell you why it is. Imagine a world where every flight took off on a time and a flight never got canceled. Did you know that 41% of the time flights get canceled because of mechanical delays? Now, what if we could use data and analytics to predict a part's going to break before it breaks, fix it in the middle of the night when the plane is sitting there in maintenance mode, and that would mean your flight would never get delayed 41% of the time.
But that also sounds science fiction-ish.
It does, that's what I love about it. But remember, at one time people thought it'd be science fiction to have mobile phones. At one time people thought it'd be science fiction to have apps on phones, and the internet certainly was always in science fiction. If you think about it, science fiction becomes science fact. It's exactly what's happening. In fact, we can predict in some cases like 100 flights ahead of time before a part breaks, even today in the labs. Now you think about that, 100 flights, that's 10 days. We might find ourselves being able to predict 2 weeks ahead of time.
Illustrate that more specifically with a specific engine part and maybe how that's happened in either test conditions or not so test conditions?
Yeah, I think that, for example, you can begin some of the things we're doing now that do change things is, vibration is a great example. Things don't vibrate actually until they're starting to wear. So imagine a bearing and having a sensor that's evaluating the vibration. You can see that bearing is starting to struggle.
Yeah.
Now, the reality is the amount of data that comes off that sensor, a human couldn't look at it and see the pattern. But the fact is machine learning can see a pattern and say, I think that's going to break. Now, with modeling, we can take that information and say, okay, when should I actually fix it? Do I need to fix it today? Or do I need to fix that 2 days from now? Those kind of things will allow businesses to ensure that the electricity never goes down, the flight is never canceled. Think about those things. That does change every consumer's world in a really meaningful way.
And what is it that you are doing to make all of this happen? I mean, this means that GE as a company is also changing and it's restructuring and reorganizing itself.
Yeah, absolutely. First of all, we respect data. We respect the idea of collecting lots of data and using it in analytics to begin to see the past. So we use machine learning to see the past. The second thing is we begin to use advanced modeling techniques to really say, could I run 100 simulations and evaluate every option I have? So if I see it wobble, what's the best option to deal with that bearing? So if you look at that idea of seeing the past and evaluating the future, we call that a digital twin. We're creating digital twins of every product we build, running them, and now you can do prediction on those in ways that you couldn't before. So one of the key things we see in the industrial world is we're going to have digital twins. I want you to think about one crazy thing. I think in the future, every human will be born with a digital twin. Now we can take all that medical information and all those things we wear, put it into our digital twin. It can begin to evaluate us, and now that twin's going to say, hey, here's the different options you have to think about how to lead a healthier, cleaner life.
Right. And where is this is this finding most practical application today? I mean, you're in marine engines, turbines, power stations, and so on.
I'm going to give you two great examples. The first is, we sell wind turbines for renewable energy. We use this approach to look at the wind at every individual wind turbine, and then we run various scenarios and pick the most efficient one. And without changing the wind turbine physically, we can generate 5% more electricity on a wind farm. 5% more electricity on a wind farm is worth 20% more profit to the operator of that wind farm. Now, if I came to you and said, hey, would you like 20% more profit? What would you say? You'd say probably okay. The next example is we now monitor all of the 30,000 plus jet aircraft engines that run on commercial airlines in real time. And what are we doing there? We're looking at what's coming off those engines, and we're now beginning to come up with a unique maintenance program for every jet aircraft engine. Those are the things we're doing today, and it's changing the nature of how our customers operate. Zero unscheduled downtime, the ability to generate more with less. And that's what the world really needs.
Right. So if I were to ask you, 2017-18, the three challenges that you see, or the three opportunities plus challenges that you see in achieving some of these industrial internet examples or situations, what would they be?
Well, I think one is, do you have the data? I mean, we've spent the last 5 years really rethinking data. It used to be everybody would throw their data away. All these sensors were just looked at, to see where they were at that moment in time. We now find that you have to have a collection strategy. You have to respect data, because if you think about what makes a Google great or Facebook great, is they have access to lots of data. And what you find is owning data in your area of expertise is real important. So I think that's a challenge for everybody, because mostly their data siloed or thrown away. And respect the data. I think the second challenge is you've got to rethink your business. You're really going to find that you're no longer just creating a hard industrial product, a physical product. You now have to couple it with digital. And do you have the right talent who's going to build those great analytics and deep insight, the digital twins, to be able to change your business? I think the last thing is people struggle with, how do they monetize it? How do they create these ways to make money at it? Because it's different than the past. And I think that idea of how you rethink your business model is hard for many traditional firms. But if you can get the data right, the talent right, the digital talent right, and the business model right, you're going to be a big winner. And that's the key for every industrial firm. Right. And the sort of last question or comment is that, and if you don't do that, someone else is going to come and do it for you or take it away from you in any case. Absolutely. I think that, you look at taxi companies and they said, oh, no one's ever going to get rid of us. We have a medallion, or we have a certificate from the city that says we can operate. You don't have one of those. Well, it turned out that that Uber came along and came up with a whole new model. They don't own any taxis, yet they are the most powerful taxi firm really in the world today. And the idea that a non-traditional company could take some data and provide a unique business model and make an asset more productive is a threat to everybody. I think the good news is that in an industrial world, it requires a lot more domain knowledge than it does to do it for the taxi world. And so the good news is domain knowledge is important. If you build complicated products, you do have a time for the next 10 years, we think, to really go win this battle. Now, 10 years from now, I'd say the domain knowledge may matter a little less, and that's what you got to be careful of. But you got time to do it now. Get ahead of it before it's too late.
That's a good note right now. Thank you so much for speaking with us.
Hey, this is outstanding. Thank you so much.
Thank you.